Hello everyone, welcome back, and today we are going to discuss how to play the Slav Defense by looking at a game played between Vidit Gujrathi versus Alireza Firouzja in 2020 at Prague Masters at Prague. The game is very instructive, and you can play up this opening at the lower level, at the beginner level, at the amateur level, at the club level, and even at the top level. And the game is simply going to be very simple, very positional, and you're going to learn a lot, and we are going to have a lot of fun. So let's quickly check out the game. So Vidit Gujrathi, Indian Grandmaster, playing with the white pieces, opens the game with 1d4, and black responds with d5, knight f3, knight to f6, c4, c6. And I'm pretty sure this opening is very common in the lower level, actually at every level of chess. And there are numerous ways to continue for white in this position. Knight to c3 is one of the move. I go for playing up this particular move order. But a very interesting move is to capture the pawn on d5, which was happened in the game by Vidit. cd, knight to c3, knight to c6. And now many of you must be thinking like the position is so boring, I would say, so simple. Like there is no like the c pawns have been traded. Sorry about that. The positional, the pieces are extremely same. Basically, both the sides are having extremely pure symmetry. So how is this game going to be interesting? So after knight c6, Vidit went for the move bishop to f4, and after bishop f4, Alireza played the move a6. And the point of playing this a6 move is, like many of you must be thinking, why not just simply play bishop f5? Guys, bishop f5 is extremely fine move in this position. You can definitely go for playing up the move. Though you have to look out some moves like after queen b3, hitting the pawn on b7, and you have to play up the move queen b6. And because or else you are going to simply lose the b7 pawn. So you must play queen b6, and after takes, you are simply going to have the bad pawn structure. Though in the exchange, the black is going to have this open a5. But this position is already slightly better for white after a3. So Alireza decides to play a6. And the idea of playing a6 is Alireza is waiting for Vidit so that Alireza wants Vidit to play the move e3. Because once Vidit plays the move e3, he's simply going to put the bishop on g4, pinning up the knight. But now Vidit played extremely calm move. Rook to c1, not committing the pawn to e3. And another basic point is, you can't put the bishop to g4 because it doesn't make any sense, because now white is going to simply put the knight on e5. And now the bishop on g4 doesn't make any sense. You have to capture, and after bishop takes, the bishop is simply bad on g4. I can simply hit the bishop from the g4 square by playing h3, getting a tempo, and white is better. So after rook c1, Alireza was kind of forced to play the move bishop f5, and basically now queen b3 doesn't make any sense because of not b5, but it defends somehow like queen d7. So after bishop f5, we have e3 in the game. If white goes for a move like queen to b3, hitting the pawn on b7, it's not working because of the move knight to a5, and it simply hits the queen and also defends the pawn. So after bishop f5, we have e3 by Vidit, e6, bishop to e2. Many players in this position go for playing up the move bishop d3. I guess it's a fine move, but like you are having the white pieces, you should always try to play something better, because you're white, you are already having a slight advantage. So playing bishop d3 is extremely equal. You can takes bishop d6, and the position is extremely drawish. So bishop to e2, queen to b6 by Firouzja. Like queen d6, it looks like going for the pawn on b2. Like it's guessing a common move like bishop d6, which also looks a very fine move for black. Because in this position, the main problem for black is after takes, queen takes. White is going to castle, black have to castle, and now white is having a very powerful move, very powerful positional move, I would say. You can feel free to pause the video and try to find the move. Okay, so all those who have came up with the move knight to a4, the move is very interesting. After knight a4, white is looking at the square of b6 and c5. And playing a move like b5 doesn't make any sense because of knight to c5, and the knight on c5 is extremely well placed. And if you try to move like knight to d7, trying to rid of this knight from the c5 square, white is going to simply put the knight on c5 and is going to play knight to h4, or removing this right square bishop because it is extremely powerful. And if you try to capture the knight, the white is already having a pass pawn, which is a very strong pass pawn, and black is going to face some real issues. And after knight a4, you can try to make up a move like knight d7, but still knight c4 is extremely strong. And after takes, white is having both the moves are extremely interesting. Even capturing with the pawn is fine, and also with the rook. You can capture with the rook because after rook takes, your idea is to play rook queen b3, rook c1, and white is ahead in development. The rook is much active than the other rook, which gives white some decent advantage. So that's kind of the main issue. Alireza went for the move queen to b6, and now castle by Vidit. Queen into b2. Alireza went for the pawn on b2, and usually when you are giving up the b2 pawn, it is usually termed as the poison pawn, because in the exchange of grabbing the b2 pawn, white gets a huge amount of activity, which we are going to look at the game. So after short castle, what are some other options at the place of capturing the pawn on b2? Black can simply continue with bishop e7, trying to play like castle move. It's extremely fine, but now white can again play a move like knight f4, hitting the queen, and also defending the pawn. So eventually, after you have to move the queen, like queen to d8 perhaps. But after here, knight to e5 is extremely strong move. Now you have to capture because it's a double attack. After taking, bishop takes, bishop c7 is also coming. The dark squares are extremely weak. White position is already pretty pleasant in this position. And the reason is white cannot play knight a4 in this particular position because of queen f5 check. That's the reason white first castled and then went for the move knight to a4. So after queen into b2, which was happening in the game, Alireza went for the capturing the pawn on b2. So all those who want to know what happens queen into b2, we are going to discuss. Knight to a4, hitting the queen, and also saying, do you want to capture the pawn on a2? Alireza was like, okay, I don't want to capture the pawn. I'm going to simply move my queen to b4, trying to run away with the queen on e7 perhaps. Capturing the pawn was also fine, but though it would give white some advantage like knight b6, hitting the rook, and after you try to move the rook, bishop c7, and white is going to get the exchange. So basically, if I make a move like bishop e7, after takes, bishop into d8, knight a4, basically we have this position, 2 pawns, bishop versus rook, which is materially equal, but positionally speaking, white is already better because the queen is in the white's camp and is going to face many troubles. Like perhaps, I don't know, perhaps the queen can be trapped at any certain point. So the position is interesting, but it's at the same point very dangerous. And eventually it gives white some advantage. So that's the reason Alireza went for playing the move queen b4, and now comes the move a3 by Vidit. Extremely sharp move, extremely brilliant move, I would say. a3. If you try to capture the pawn on a3, still knight b6, and it basically leads to the same position. After rook d8, bishop c7, the rook is trapped, and after even rook a7, bishop is still trapped. The rook is still trapped. So that's the point. Basically defending, basically just removing the control of queen from the b6 square. So Alireza wanted to keep the control of the b6 square, so he went for the move queen a5, which turned out to be a biggest blunder in the game. Because after queen a5, came up with the move queen to b3 by Vidit. On the move number 13, it's already completely winning for white. You can already sense it. Black king is still in the center. White's king is extremely safe. Black is a pawn because black is a pawn grabber. But in the exchange, you can already sense white's powerful activity. And black's king is already bad. So after queen b3, white is hitting the pawn on b7. So you can't actually really defend it. Because if you try to play a move like b5, rook into c6 is simply hanging up. And if you try to trade off the queens, white is not going to trade off the queens because of queen c3, and now rook c8 is coming up, which would be simply game over for black. Guys, remember a very important thing to notice: you should never trade the queens whenever you are attacking the king's center. You should always try to keep the queens on the board if you are the attacker. And if you don't try to play a move like b5, it's extremely hard to defend the b7. You can't play a move like rook b8, simply blundering up the rook. So that's the reason. In the game, we have b5 by Alireza. Okay, he also didn't saw any other move. So b5 was played in the game. Rook into c6, what happened in the game? Queen into a4 happened in the game. Queen c3. e5 was played by Firouzja in this particular position. Extremely bad playing this move out of disparity. But after knight into e5, b4 takes knight to e4, hitting the queen, simply queen 8 by Vidit. Extremely calm move. He knows that he's 2 pawns up. He can simply trade off the queens. There is no issues. Trading off the queens, bishop into b4, but now you lose the a6 pawn. And after rook trade, short castle. White is a pawn up in the end after the snow settles, and white is completely winning because of the d5 pawn is also extremely weak. We have rook, the g4 by white hitting the bishop, knight to c3 hitting the bishop to f1, and on the move number 24, only 24 moves, Alireza Firouzja decides to resign the game against Vidit Gujrathi. The game was simply brilliant played by Vidit. The reason Alireza decides to resign the game in this particular position, there is no play in this position. White is hitting the bishop, white is hitting another bishop, black is going to get a piece down, so it's going to be extremely over. That was the reason Alireza decided to resign the game. But overall, what we learned here is the move that was played by Alireza on the move number 6, a6. He wanted to play up the move bishop g4 if he was waiting for Vidit to play e3, but now a very good move by rook c1 played by Vidit, simply forcing black to play bishop f5 because you can't play a move like e6 because the bishop remains bad on c8, and there is also no point of playing a6. So rook c1, you have to deal up the bishop, and bishop e2, and the point was you can't really play bishop f5 in this position because of queen b3. You are hitting the b7 pawn, and after knight a4 hitting the queen and also defending the pawn. Queen a4 check, bishop d7. You have to play bishop d7. If you try to play a move like knight to c6, it ends up with e3, and white gets some serious advantage with bishop b5, knight e5. So you have to play bishop d7. It's actually all theory. You can play queen c2. But after queen c2, basically white have taken the f5 square for the bishop. So the bishop is going to remain bad. That's the main point. You have to play e6, and the bishop is bad on d7. The knight is on kind of misplaced on a5. So it's extremely good for white. So that's the reason you can't really play bishop f5. You can play a6, which was happened in the game. And playing e6 also doesn't make any sense. Though it is, you can definitely play it, but the bishop simply remains bad on c8. And you can already have this good bishop versus a bad bishop. And I guess white should be very comfortable. I mean, you should be very comfortable. So I guess you can be the one trying to play this particular opening, trying to simply capture the pawn on the center and play this opening. And you can reach this particular position by various other setups. Like it's not forced that you have to play knight f3 in this position. You can also play c4 on the second move. And after c6, you can already capture and convert this position into this particular position. So I hope that you guys must have learned something new. If you did, then make sure to like the video and make sure to share this video with everyone so that many more players will be able to learn this particular opening. And make sure to subscribe to our channel if you are new to our channel, because we are going to come up with these interesting videos like this. So I'm going to come up with these interesting videos like this. So till then, stay tuned and keep watching Oneshot Chess.